The purpose of education is to nurture minds while teaching values and principles that help the students distinguish between right and wrong. It is also necessary to learn skills needed to achieve overall development. Traditional education travels through a hierarchy system moving from preschool, elementary, middle, high, and then any chosen continued higher education. The tradition of didactic pedagogy, where every classroom was teacher-centered with direct instruction, has experienced a shift toward a more student-centered approach, moving from rote memorization to student discovery. Traditional classrooms were set up as rows with the teacher in the front of the class. Today, there are more opportunities for collaboration and teacher facilitation by having student desks in groups and a teacher moving throughout the room as they work. These student-centered classrooms are focusing on a more constructivist-based instruction. Constructivism can be cognitive or social. With both, the focus shifts from the teacher to the students. In a constructivist classroom, students are encouraged to be actively involved in their own process of learning. Social constructivism encourages the growth of meaning and understanding through social encounters. These encounters may be with peers or the teacher. Vygotsky, a social constructivist theorist, focused on the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development is the distance between what the student can do independently and what the same student can do under adult guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. These interactions enable students to refine their thinking and their performance to make it more effective. In social constructivism, students are exposed to experiences like discussions, group projects, and research collaborations. Cognitive constructivism looks more into how the individual learner understands things. Piaget was a cognitive constructivist theorist who believed that concrete learning experiences are essential to the learning process. These types of experiences might include things like drawing, model building, and hands-on opportunities with manipulatives and visual aids. Brunner, another cognitive constructivist theorist, based many of his beliefs on the work of Piaget. Brunner believed learning is an active process where learners construct new ideas or concepts based on their previous knowledge. In a cognitive constructivism setting, students are encouraged by the teacher to discover ideas independently while still engaging in active dialogue. Some of the most common instructional practices in a constructivist classroom include seeking and valuing students' points of view, challenging students' current beliefs and ideas, structuring lessons around big ideas and not small bits of information, and assessing student learning through daily classroom investigations. When you take into consideration what your kids already know and make the new learning relevant, then of course, interest and understanding will occur. The transformation of traditional lessons to a more student-centered constructivist learning situation is easier than it may seem. When looking at math instruction, it's easy to get in a routine of lecture than test, but there is so much discovery that can take place in math to promote better understanding. With measurement, students are responsible for knowing and understanding units of metric and customary measurements. Having students use real tools to measure real objects allows them better observation of what the measurements represent. It all of a sudden becomes easier for them to estimate measurements, decide what unit is most reasonable, and also grasp just how big something actually is. Science is also a subject where discovery and student-centered activities are easily created. Students love any type of experiment, and every experiment requires inquiry skills and questions to be answered. With electricity, students are responsible for knowing the difference and distinguishing between series and parallel circuits. Having the students actually work with the materials to create their own mini-circuits is a great learning experience. Once they make a series circuit and are able to get the bulb to light up, they are ready to make a parallel circuit. They soon realize they need more material for a different circuit. The communication and thought process that goes into transitioning from series to parallel circuits and back again is taking the textbook reading and making it easier to comprehend by seeing it in a real setting. When assessing students in a constructivist classroom, the focus should be placed on enhancing not only student learning, but also teacher understanding of their students' progress. A constructivist assessment is not meant to be an accountability tool that stresses students out or causes a deflation in student learning. Common assessments in a constructivist classroom include, but are not limited to, reflective journals, case studies, group projects, presentations, debates, and role-playing. When looking at constructivism, two types of learning really foster this environment. The first is problem-based learning, which replaces traditional lecture with problems presented by the teacher for students to solve. Problem-based learning can be done both independently and collaboratively. The second is project-based learning, which allows students to focus on real-world problems by solving them through projects. Project-based learning isn't always the same. Some projects may be multidisciplinary, while others may be single subject. Also, projects can be completed as a whole class, small group, or independently. Both problem-based and project-based learning approaches reinforce the constructivist philosophy because they give students the opportunity to work through their thinking and construct new ideas based on their prior knowledge. Their understanding is taken a step further through working in an environment where the teacher is facilitating when needed, but the students are also allowed to build their own thinking. An example of the many types of project-based learning experiences might be an astronomy project. This project is designed to have each student individually research a chosen planet from the solar system. The research is organized based on a given rubric, and throughout the research process, students with common planets can get together to discuss interesting findings. In the end, students present their findings to the class through PowerPoint presentations and by showing a homemade model of their planet. At the end of the presentation, students are allowed to ask the presenter any questions they may still have about the planet. This project, though completed individually, brought students together through instructional conversation and made them responsible for the information presented. There needed to be a confidence in their understanding of the content and preparation for questions at the end. Constructivism is present in many classrooms today, but can most definitely be polished to be better. When looking at the research, it is proven in many cases that a constructivist model used in the classroom is benefiting everyone. The students are more engaged and responsible for their own learning, and the teacher is more in tune with his or her students. When we practice constructivism in the classroom, there is greater understanding for everyone, and understanding is what education is all about.